#Adaptability. The human weapon the Hegemony couldn't match. High Commander Kalen Ver stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable Will, his gaze fixed on the holographic display of Earth rotating slowly before him. Unlike the perfect symmetry of Hegemony worlds, with their mathematically optimized city layouts and regulated natural preserves, the blue planet retained a chaotic, almost unruly appearance. Cloud formations swirled in unpredictable patterns, oceans surged with countless currents, and the land masses bore the scars of natural processes rather than deliberate design. Fascinating, isn't it? Var mused, addressing Chief Analyst Zyler, who stood silently at his side. How such organic chaos could produce a species that repelled our finest military strategists. Commander Zorn's approach was imprudent, Zyler replied carefully. Direct military confrontation played to their evolutionary strengths. Var nodded, his long fingers tracing the outline of the small planet. Zorn was brilliant but impatient. He mistook their technological inferiority for weakness. We will not repeat that error. He gestured, and the hologram expanded to reveal the newly constructed Luna station positioned in Earth's orbit. The station was a marvel of hegemony engineering, a gleaming orbital platform where Earth's rudimentary modules had been incorporated into a vastly superior hegemony architecture. Our trade and cultural delegation will accomplish what Zorn's warships could not, Var continued. Economic pressure, technological dependencies, cultural influence. These are the refined tools of true conquest. They will voluntarily join the hegemony within 5 cycles, grateful for our guidance. Zyler studied the data streams flowing beside the hologram. The preliminary cultural assessments indicate their societies remain fractious despite the formation of their United Earth Alliance. Their economic systems are particularly vulnerable to our influence. Excellent, Var replied. Begin implementation of Phase 1. And Zyler. Yes, High Commander? Ensure all operatives understand. No direct confrontation. We are not invaders, but benefactors. That is how we will succeed where Zorn failed. The Luna station hummed with activity as the Hegemony delegation settled into their newly established quarters. The contrast between the two sections of the station was striking. The Hegemony sector gleamed with perfectly aligned corridors, automated systems, and elegant minimalist design, while the Earth sector retained its utilitarian, somewhat cluttered appearance, filled with what the Hegemony considered redundant manual controls and inefficient spatial arrangements. In the central conference chamber, Var conducted his first direct communication with Secretary General Anya Sharma of the United Earth Alliance. The woman's holographic projection maintained perfect composure as she greeted him. High Commander Var, Earth welcomes the Hegemony's interest in peaceful exchange, Sharma stated, her voice measured and diplomatic. However, I must emphasize that any agreements must respect Earth's sovereignty and self-determination. Var offered the precise degree of respectful acknowledgement required by protocol. Of course, Secretary General, the Hegemony has no interest in undermining Earth's autonomy. We merely offer the fruits of our advanced civilization, technological solutions to your energy concerns, medical innovations for your health challenges, and cultural exchange to enrich our mutual understanding. As the conversation continued, Var noted with satisfaction how Sharma carefully navigated around direct commitments while maintaining a veneer of openness. He recognized it as a negotiating tactic born of weakness, the desperate maneuvering of a leader who knew her civilization was outmatched but was unwilling to admit it. We look forward to productive collaboration, Var concluded. When the communication ended, he turned to Zyler. They are cautious but desperate. Their environmental systems are failing, their resource distribution is inefficient, and their technological progress has stagnated. They will accept our assistance incrementally, and with each acceptance, they will become more dependent. In the Earth sector of Luna Station, Dr. Elias Thorne moved quietly through the archives where he served as head librarian and data curator. With his stooped posture, perpetually distracted expression, and outdated clothing, he appeared to be exactly what his credentials suggested, a a scholarly recluse who had accepted the Luna posting to avoid the social complications of Earth. The Hegemony personnel largely ignored him as he shuffled between data terminals, occasionally muttering to himself while organizing the cultural and trade data flows between Earth and the delegation. What they failed to notice was the intensity of his gaze as he tracked patterns in the data exchange, or how his seemingly random mutterings were actually complex calculations being performed without electronic assistance. As the Hegemony's preferential technologies began flowing to Earth with their carefully designed obsolescence and dependencies, Thorne's fingers moved across his archival terminal with practiced precision, documenting every anomaly, every hidden connection. Fascinating cultural exchange proposal, a Hegemony cultural liaison commented as she passed his workstation. You must be pleased with the educational materials we're providing to Earth's institutions. Oh, yes, Thorne replied, his voice timid and slightly distracted. Most generous. Very illuminating content. The liaison continued on, having already forgotten the unremarkable human. Thorne's eyes returned to his screen, where he was methodically identifying the subtle indicators of hegemony systems designed to gradually supplant Earth's independent communications infrastructure. Illuminating indeed, he whispered to himself. Within 3 months, the first signs of hegemony influence became apparent. Earth markets experienced unexpected fluctuations in essential commodities. New hegemony technologies, initially distributed to key sectors like energy and communications, began experiencing compatibility issues with Earth systems that could only be resolved through deeper integration with hegemony protocols. Cultural programs highlighting the peace and prosperity of hegemony worlds began gaining popularity, subtly emphasizing the inefficiencies of Earth's diverse governance models. In his private chamber aboard the Indomitable Will, Var reviewed Zyler's latest assessment. Economic stress indicators are rising precisely as projected, Zyler reported. 3 major Earth governments have requested additional technological assistance after experiencing grid failures. Our cultural metrics show a 22% increase in positive sentiment toward hegemony governance principles. An opposition? Var inquired. Fragmented and ineffective, Zyler replied. Some resistance to cultural influence in isolated regions, but nothing coordinated. Their leaders are too preoccupied with managing the economic instabilities to mount any coherent response. Var nodded with satisfaction. The plan was proceeding with the elegant precision that characterized all hegemony operations. Unlike Zorn's crude military approach, this conquest would occur without the humans even recognizing it until it was complete. Continue Phase 1, he ordered. Increase economic pressure in the southern continental regions and begin preliminary assessments for Phase 2 integration protocols. Across Earth, news reports depicted a planet increasingly struggling with unexpected challenges. Footage showed protesters gathering outside government buildings in several major cities, demanding solutions to rising prices and utility disruptions. In a widely broadcast address, Secretary General Sharma publicly appealed to the hegemony delegation for more equitable terms in their technology sharing agreements. Var issued a diplomatic but unyielding response, emphasizing the benefits of closer cooperation and suggesting that Earth's difficulties stem from its reluctance to fully embrace hegemony systems. The message was clear. Help would come at the price of increased integration. What neither Var nor his analysts noticed were the subtle indicators of adaptation occurring beneath the surface of their data models. In rural communities across Earth, local exchange networks began circumventing the formal economic systems manipulated by hegemony algorithms. Farmers' markets expanded, bartering systems reemerged, and community cooperatives formed to share resources outside the monitored supply chains. In mid-sized cities, engineers found ways to patch older technologies or develop entirely analog alternatives to maintain essential operations without relying on hegemony systems. When smart grid components experienced compatibility issues, communities reverted to manual control systems operated by human technicians rather than AI. And beneath it all, Decentralized communication networks proliferated using encryption methods and low-tech platforms that the hegemony considered obsolete. These networks didn't appear on hegemony monitoring because they deliberately avoided the speed and efficiency that hegemony systems valued, instead prioritizing security through obscurity and unpredictability. In the Luna Station archives, Dr. Thorne had begun a subtle but sophisticated counterintelligence campaign. He wasn't directly attacking hegemony systems. Such assaults would be immediately detected and crushed by superior defenses. Instead, he was gathering data, analyzing the manipulation algorithms, and studying the patterns of hegemony surveillance. Thorne's approach was inherently human, using randomization, intuition, and deception to mask his activities from the hegemony's advanced AI monitoring systems. He began seeding small bits of misleading data into the hegemony systems through harmless cultural archive channels. A fabricated report on declining agricultural output here, a modified transportation disruption analysis there, individually insignificant, but collectively designed to create a subtly distorted picture of Earth's condition when processed by hegemony analytical systems. After 3 more months, Zyler approached VAR with uncharacteristic hesitation. "High Commander, I must report some anomalies in our assessment models." VAR looked up from his command console. "Explain." "Our economic models predict significantly higher stress levels than we're observing in actual behavior patterns. Data traffic on obsolete networks has inexplicably increased. And most concerning, hegemony technology integrated into Earth systems is reporting errors that our diagnostics cannot explain." VAR frowned. The plan was not proceeding with the seamless precision he had expected. "Your assessment? I believe the humans may be concealing certain responses to our influence," Zyler admitted. "Their adaptations are not following predicted patterns." "Specify these adaptations," VAR demanded. "That's the difficulty, High Commander. We cannot precisely identify them. We see only the consequences. Systems that should be failing are somehow continuing to function. Markets that should be collapsing are maintaining stability through undefined mechanisms. It's as if—" Zyler hesitated. "Continue," VAR ordered. "It's as if they are creating solutions we cannot model because they operate outside our parameters for efficient systems." VAR dismissed Zyler's concerns with a wave. "Human inefficiency. Their chaotic methods create temporary solutions that will ultimately collapse under sustained pressure. Increase implementation of Phase 1 measures by 30%. We will accelerate the timeline." After Zyler departed, VAR remained at his console, a flicker of disquiet disturbing his usual confidence. The humans were proving more resilient than anticipated, not through strength or superior strategy, but through some quality that the hegemony's models struggled to quantify. As weeks passed, VAR's disquiet grew into genuine concern. The predicted collapse of Earth's independent systems was occurring more slowly than models suggested, and in some regions, not at all. The economic stresses that should have driven Earth's leadership to seek hegemony intervention were being mitigated through methods that defied efficient analysis. "I require more direct intelligence," VAR announced during a strategy session with his command team. "Our remote analysis is clearly missing critical factors in human adaptation." "What do you propose, High Commander?" Zyler asked. "Operation Chimera," VAR replied. "We will deploy deep cover operatives to infiltrate critical Earth infrastructure: energy, water, analog communications. Their mission will be twofold: identify the covert resistance networks and prepare for synchronized sabotage when necessary." "Is such direct intervention wise?" Zyler questioned cautiously. Commander Zorn's report specifically warned. "Zorn failed because he relied on brute force," VAR interrupted. "We are applying precision intelligence gathering. There is no comparison." The directives were issued, and within days, Hegemony's most sophisticated infiltration agents were deploying to Earth. Among them was Agent Lyra, the Hegemony's foremost deep cover operative, enhanced with cutting-edge biotechnology that allowed her to perfectly mimic human physiological responses and equipped with the most comprehensive cultural training. Lyra was considered infallible in infiltration missions. Her assignment was a geothermal energy network in Iceland, a critical node in Earth's decentralized power grid and an exemplar of human adaptation. The facility had declined hegemony upgrades, yet continued to operate at unexpectedly high efficiency despite predicted resource shortages. Lyra integrated herself seamlessly into the facility as an environmental engineer, using credentials that had been meticulously crafted to withstand scrutiny. She found the humans at the facility disarmingly open, somewhat disorganized in their work patterns, and apparently lacking in rigid security protocols. She began mapping the system and identifying vulnerable points for potential future sabotage. What she discovered, however, increasingly troubled her professional assessment. The disorganization she observed was actually an extraordinarily complex and flexible redundancy system. Every component had multiple alternatives, often using entirely different technological approaches to accomplish the same function. The engineers constantly improvised, repairing and modifying equipment using methods that followed no standardized protocol. One afternoon, Lyra observed an elderly maintenance engineer whom the other workers referred to as Mavis resolving what should have been a catastrophic system failure. Using salvage parts and an improvised solution that no hegemony AI could have predicted, Mavis restored functionality within hours rather than the days that Lyra's training suggested would be required. "Been doing this 40 years, Mavis explained when she noticed Lyra watching. "You learn that there's always more than one way to solve a problem. The manuals only tell you the official way, not necessarily the best way. But without standardized procedures, how do you maintain quality control?" Lyra asked, genuinely curious. Mavis laughed. "Oh, we have standards. They're just flexible. You have to be when you're working with systems this complex and this old. Equipment has personality, you know? You have to listen to what it's telling you, not just what the specs say it should be doing." Lyra found herself increasingly unsettled. This facility wasn't weak. It was adaptable to a degree that defied her training. Sabotaging one point would likely have minimal impact on the overall system because the humans would simply improvise a workaround using whatever resources were available. She filed her report, carefully documenting the facility's unusual resilience while recommending multiple simultaneous points of sabotage to overcome their redundancy systems. VAR interpreted her findings as evidence of the inefficiency that needed to be corrected through hegemony intervention. "They waste resources maintaining multiple systems where one optimized system would suffice," he noted. "This confirms our approach. Continue monitoring and expand infiltration to additional facilities." Meanwhile, Dr. Thorne's network monitoring detected minute energy and data signatures associated with the infiltration agents, despite their advanced concealment technology. He couldn't pinpoint their exact locations or identities, but he knew the hegemony had deployed covert assets on Earth. He intensified his misinformation campaign, focusing on creating a fabricated picture of impending internal collapse that would appeal to hegemony biases. Thorne's falsified data painted a meticulously crafted scenario: factional conflicts within Earth's governance, an imminent energy grid failure, centered on the Iceland region Lyra was infiltrating, and the Sharma administration losing control of the situation. The data was designed to fool hegemony analytical algorithms by playing to their preconceptions about human society while containing just enough verifiable elements to pass cursory validation. Zeiler processed this manipulated data and presented his conclusions to VAR with high confidence. "Earth is approaching systemic failure, High Commander. Internal conflicts have reached critical levels, and their energy infrastructure is on the verge of collapse. The Sharma administration is preparing for emergency measures but lacks effective solutions. This presents an optimal window for hegemony humanitarian intervention." VAR studied the assessment, seeing in it the culmination of his strategy. "Prepare a peacekeeping force," he ordered. "Small but elite. We anticipate minimal organized resistance given their internal chaos. And send directives to our field operatives to execute synchronized sabotage operations to support our intervention." Target the Iceland geothermal network first. Its failure will cascade through their northern grid systems. Lyra received her orders with growing unease. The directive to sabotage the facility contradicted her field assessment of the situation, but Hegemony operatives did not question commands. She meticulously prepared explosive devices that would destroy critical junction points throughout the facility, timing them to detonate simultaneously during a shift change when fewer personnel would be at risk. As she made her final preparations, Mavis approached her workstation, carrying a toolbox. "Need some help with those sensor calibrations?" the older woman asked casually. "No, thank you," Lyra replied smoothly. "Just finishing up some routine maintenance checks." Mavis nodded, but her eyes lingered on Lyra's hands, which had paused over a concealed detonator. "Funny thing about maintenance," she said conversationally. "You develop an instinct for when something's not right. Been feeling that way all day, like something's off in our routine." Lyra maintained her cover persona perfectly. Environmental engineering can be unpredictable. Sometimes you just have to trust your instruments. "See, that's where we differ," Mavis replied, setting down her toolbox with deliberate care. "I trust my eyes and my gut more than any instrument. And right now, they're telling me you're not who you say you are." The facility alarm activated before Lyra could respond, and a security team appeared at the doorway, weapons drawn. Somehow, they had detected her devices or her communications, something that should have been impossible given Hegemony technology. Unaware of Lyra's compromise, the Hegemony peacekeeping force deployed to Iceland, expecting to encounter a region in chaos and a facility on the verge of failure. Instead, they found themselves facing a carefully prepared defense force. Not military regulars, but local militia using the terrain, classic guerrilla tactics, and surprisingly effective improvised weapons. They had clearly been warned and had prepared accordingly. The Hegemony force, despite their superior technology, found themselves outmaneuvered by defenders who seemed to anticipate their tactics and had prepared multiple countermeasures for each Hegemony advantage. What should have been a swift humanitarian intervention devolved into a tactical nightmare as the peacekeepers encountered one unexpected obstacle after another. Aboard the Indomitable Will, Var watched with growing alarm as the operation reports indicated mounting casualties and tactical failures. How could this be happening? His intelligence had shown a population in disarray, not a coordinated resistance force. His personal console suddenly activated without command, displaying a direct communication channel that bypassed all Hegemony security protocols. The screen showed the calm face of Dr. Elias Thorne, transmitting from Luna Station. "High Commander Var," Thorne said, his previously timid demeanor replaced by cool confidence. "I believe it's time we spoke directly. How did you access this channel?" Var demanded, signaling security teams even as he spoke. "The same way I've been accessing your data systems for months," Thorne replied. "Your security algorithms are impressive but predictable. They seek patterns, but they can't account for human unpredictability. Much like your peacekeeping force is discovering in Iceland." "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" Var asked, stalling as his security teams attempted to trace and terminate the connection. "I wanted to show you the true scope of what you've misunderstood about humanity," Thorne explained. "Your data on Earth's condition has been compromised since the moment your delegation arrived. The economic distress, the factional conflicts, the infrastructure failures, all fabricated or exaggerated to lead you to exactly this moment." "Impossible," Var stated. "Our systems would detect such manipulation." "Your systems are designed to detect logical patterns of deception," Thorne countered. "But humans don't always follow logical patterns. We improvise. We make intuitive leaps. We embrace inconsistency when it serves us. These qualities make us maddeningly inefficient by your standards, but they also make us impossible for you to predict reliably." As Thorne spoke, additional data flowed across Var's screen, evidence of the comprehensive counterintelligence operation that had been running beneath the Hegemony's monitoring for months. Thousands of small data manipulations, none significant enough to trigger security alerts, but collectively painting a false picture that the hegemony had accepted because it confirmed their expectations. Your peacekeeping force is now surrounded, Thorne continued. Agent Lyra has been detained, and I have access to critical systems throughout your communication network. Secretary General Sharma will be making a public statement shortly, but I wanted to give you this courtesy first. Withdraw your forces and your delegation, or face consequences across your entire network that you cannot predict or prepare for. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Var staring at the evidence of a deception so comprehensive it challenges understanding of what had transpired since their arrival. Within hours, Secretary General Sharma issued a public statement that was broadcast throughout Earth and to the Hegemony delegation. Her tone was not provocative, but carried unmistakable resolve. To High Commander Var and the Hegemony delegation, Earth acknowledges your technological achievements and remains open to genuine cultural exchange between our civilizations. However, today's unauthorized military action represents a fundamental violation of our sovereignty and mutual diplomatic agreements. The United Earth Alliance hereby demands the complete withdrawal of all hegemony personnel from Luna Station and cessation of all intervention activities within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in consequences across your networks that cannot be predicted or contained. Earth seeks peace, but we will defend our independence through whatever means necessary. The implied threat was clear. Dr. Thorne's cyber capabilities could be deployed against the broader hegemony network if VAR refused to withdraw. Faced with the humiliation of a failed operation, compromised intelligence, and the potential for widespread disruption across hegemony systems, VAR had no choice. He ordered the immediate extraction of all forces from Earth and began preparations for the delegations. Departure from Luna Station. Agent Lyra was eventually exchanged in a diplomatic arrangement that allowed the hegemony to save face publicly while privately acknowledging their defeat. As part of the exchange, she provided Earth security services with valuable insights into hegemony tactics and technology. Not because she betrayed her people, but because she had come to respect the humans she had studied. In his final report to the Hegemony Supreme Command, Var was more brutal in his assessment than Zorn had been. The fundamental error in our approach to Earth was not tactical, but perceptual. We assumed their technological inferiority indicated a less advanced civilization that could be systematically manipulated through superior systems. This was catastrophically incorrect. The humans possess no hidden weapons or unexpected strategic brilliance. Their advantage lies in their very nature. Their adaptability is not merely a response, but a continuous state of existence, honed by their evolutionary history and internal conflicts. It manifests at the societal level, the technological level, even when primitive, the psychological level, and the digital level. They weaponize chaos and decentralization against rigid, centralized systems like ours. Where we see inefficiency in their multiple redundant systems, they see resilience. Where we see irrational variation in their approaches, they see adaptability. Their strength emerges from what we perceived as weakness. Most concerning, they appear capable of rapid cultural transmission of adaptive behaviors. When one human creates a novel solution, others quickly adopt and modify it without centralized direction. This organic problem-solving approach generates solutions that our models cannot predict because they operate outside our parameters for efficient systems. I must therefore recommend that the hegemony classify Earth as unsuitable for integration at this time. Not because we lack the means to conquer it militarily, but because we lack the framework to understand and therefore control it. Any attempt at forced integration would require resources disproportionate to potential benefits and would likely fail due to their unpredictable adaptive responses. Seated on the command deck of the retreating flagship, Var watched as Earth diminished in the view screen. He had come to realize that the hegemony didn't just lack the means to conquer Earth. They lacked the ability to comprehend it. They couldn't model, couldn't predict, couldn't control a system that thrived on change and improvisation. He thought back to Zorn's final words in his own failed report, but now understood them at a deeper level. We strive to impose order upon the universe. They dance with chaos, and somehow, they always manage to lead the dance. The hegemony had encountered many species across the stars, but none quite like humans. Their greatest weapon wasn't their technology, their strategy, or even their determination. It was their fundamental nature. They adapted not just to survive, but to thrive in circumstances that should have broken them. And for the first time in his career, High Commander Kalen Var felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty about the hegemony's place in the cosmos. If they couldn't comprehend, let alone control, the adaptive chaos that was humanity, what other assumptions might they have wrong about their manifest destiny among the stars? As the ship accelerated away from the small blue planet, Var made a decision he would tell no one. He would study humanity from afar, not as an adversary to be conquered, but as a phenomenon to be understood. Perhaps in that understanding, the hegemony might find a new kind of strength, the strength that comes not from perfect order, but from learning to dance with chaos.